You ever been in that spot where you really respect your leader, you're on the team, but you just do not agree with a decision they've made? Man, it creates this knot in your stomach, right? This tension between being loyal and being honest. So let's get into this because figuring that out, that's one of the toughest things to do when you're part of any team. And this right here, this is the question so many of us are asking, even if it's just in our own head. You want to be supportive. You want to be a loyal person. But you also have to be real. You can't just be a robot. So how do you do both? How do you bring up a real concern without getting labeled as a problem, but also not just stay silent and feel like a total phony? Well, if we don't get this right, we usually end up in one of two ditches on either side of the road. On one side, you've got the withdrawn servant. This is the person who keeps showing up, they keep smiling, but on the inside, man, the passion is gone. Resentment is starting to grow. Then, on the other side, you've got the real critic. This is where you decide, I'm just going to be honest. But that honesty gets a little toxic. It slowly turns into constant criticism, and you end up tearing down the very person you're meant to be holding up. Trust me, neither of these is a good place to be. But look, there is a much better way. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at this loyalty dilemma. We're going to do a quick gut check on our own hearts, look at a really powerful story, and then I'm going to give you a super practical playbook for how to be loyal, honest, and real. Okay, first up, the loyalty dilemma. Because what we're really talking about here, it goes way deeper than just one little decision you don't happen to like. Here's the absolute key. The disagreement itself, that's not really the problem. The real danger is what that disagreement starts to do on the inside of you. Is it making you more humble? Is it pushing you to try and understand? Or is it making you feel offended, a little bit cold, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit superior? That right there, that's the fork in the road. Which brings us right to this next part. We've got to do a little bit of an honest self-assessment. Before we figure out what to do out there, we got to know what's going on in here. So let's check our heart's compass. Okay, first question, and be real with yourself. Am I offended? Are you, replaying conversations over and over in your mind, feeling like you've been misunderstood or just completely taken for granted? What about your passion? Has it kind of cooled off? Have you become passive? Like, are you just doing the bare minimum to get by, but that fire you used to have, it's not really there anymore? Now this one's huge. When you feel that frustration building up, where does it go? Does it go upward in a real conversation with your leader? Or does it go sideways to your coworkers and downwards to the people you lead, turning into gossip and negativity? And finally, have you started to fall into that superiority trap? Is that little voice in your head whispering, you know what? I know better. If they would just listen to me for a change, this whole place would run so much better. So, if you're kind of ticking these boxes, maybe even just a few of them, the issue isn't just a simple disagreement anymore. The real problem is that your heart, it's already started to drift. And that is a really dangerous current to be caught in. So what do we do about it? Well, there's this incredible story from the ancient scriptures that gives us a perfect case study of these two different paths. It's the story of David versus Absalom. Okay, check this out. It's all about the contrast here. So David, he had every reason in the world to be mad at his leader, King Saul, who was, well, he was a mess. But David made this critical choice. He focused on honoring the position, the office of the king, even when the person in it was failing. He just kept serving. Absalom, on the other hand, he had a real problem, a legitimate complaint. But look at his method. He didn't try to fix the problems. He exploited them. He went and stood at the city gates, listened to people's problems, and basically said, if only I were in charge. He was stealing people's hearts. And that brings us to the absolute core lesson here. The line between being a David and being an Absalom isn't about who disagreed more or who had a better reason to be upset. It's all about what they did with that disagreement. Did they use it to build up or to tear down? Okay, so how do we actually do this? How do we become a David? Let's turn all this insight into a really practical playbook for speaking up without going sideways. All right, 4 really key steps. First, you have to decide who you are. Are you what we call a son of the house, meaning you're all in, you're committed for the long haul? Or are you contract staff? Basically, you're only here as long as it's working for you. Second, take your real conversations upward, not sideways.
Third, you got to accept that you're not always going to get your way, and that's okay as long as it's not a moral or ethical issue. And fourth, you have to guard your heart against that familiarity that can so easily turn into contempt.
So what does it actually sound like to take a conversation upward? It's not about marching in and making demands. It's an appeal. It sounds more like this. Hey boss, I've been wrestling with a few of the recent decisions. And look, I really don't want my heart to get in a bad place about it. Could you help me understand how you're seeing it? And maybe I could share how it's landing from my perspective? See the difference? The whole posture is about getting aligned, about understanding, not about accusing. Now, a massive part of handling this well is just figuring out what kind of disagreement you're even having, because they are not all the same. So let's look at a simple way to categorize them. You can pretty much put any disagreement into one of three buckets. First, is it sin? We're talking about things that are morally or ethically wrong, lying, abuse, illegal stuff. That requires confrontation. Second, is it just style? A personality clash, a different way of communicating. That just requires tolerance and a little adaptation. Or third, is it strategy? A genuine difference of opinion on the best way to do something. This is where you contribute your idea, but ultimately, you got to submit to the final call. The problem is, most of our issues are about style and strategy, but we treat them like they're sin.
All right, so when we pull all of this together, what we're really aiming for here is a totally new mindset. A mindset that leads to a healthier heart for you and a way healthier team. We've got to shift from that old way of thinking, that false choice that tells us, okay, if I disagree, my only options are to either fake it and pretend I'm on board, or I have to fight it and cause a scene. The new, much healthier way to think is this. Disagreement itself does not equal disloyalty, but what I choose to do with my disagreement, that can. And this is what mature loyalty actually feels like. It's not about pretending you agree when you don't. It's about having your say, making your case respectfully. And then, if the decision still goes the other way, you make a conscious choice. A choice to get your heart, your hands, and your words behind that direction to help it succeed. It's an active choice, not just a passive, grumpy resignation.
So we end with this question, just for you. Take a hard look at your actions, your conversations, the attitude of your heart. Is the way you're handling your disagreement actually helping to build the house? Or are you slowly, maybe without even meaning to, becoming the enemy inside the gates? At the end of the day, that choice is yours.